Well, here we are again, Amy. It's the year 2024. And it seems as if topics about church, gender, theology, they're still an issue. They're still an issue. I mean,
Yeah,
who would have
here we
thought?
are. Yeah, in the future, and it's pretty much the same,
Yeah, and
except for your hair. Your hair's different, and I
that's
like it.
right. My hair is longer, and every woman I meet says it looks a lot better. You don't look like you just finished boot camp in the Marine Corps.
Right, right. Yeah, you
So
got a
I
little
may,
style to you now, Mike.
yeah, I may have to keep some body in my hair, but that requires
I
things
like it.
like washing and brushing it, which is not my strong
Yeah, there's
point.
a little more maintenance involved.
There is.
Hmm.
But we've had a bit of well, I've had a summer, you've had a winter that's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
down and depressing, but you're heading off for a holiday somewhere. You're going for holidays.
yeah. So like right now, we're in the dead of February. It's terrible. I hate February. It's the worst month of the year. It's like seasonal depression, darkness, coldness, dying for sun. So my husband and I booked a trip to Aruba, and we've been there once and we really loved it. So it'll be kind of fun to go back with the knowledge of what we know now.
Yeah.
And we're leaving the day after Easter, which my daughter, who's giving us a ride to the airport, doesn't know yet that our flight's at 5 in the morning. So gotta get there, a couple hours before that. It's in Baltimore, so oh no, I think we might be flying out of Reagan, so Washington D.C.
Okay, well, I'm sure her devotion to you means she'll take you in there without grumbling about it at all. You know, children
Just
don't.
kind of waiting. I'm kind of waiting to let her know about this.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, for me, I spent a couple of glorious weeks in Canada. The people
Nice.
were great. The places was nice, but it was cold. It was not an Australian summer, and it was
I've
like,
been
you
to
know,
Canada in February
beautiful, like the
twice.
Canadian Rockies. Love the Canadian Rockies.
Yeah, it's beautiful and freezing.
Exactly, exactly. That's how it
Freezing.
was for me. That's how it was for me.
Yeah. I did go
Speak.
to Niagara Falls though when it was nice out, and
Okay, that would be. I have
that
been
was
there
wonderful.
like back in '99, a long time ago.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while.
Yeah. Speaking of freezing and frosty, let's talk about Twitter, or now called X.
X.
Now, I was astounded when I found out that there is someone in what is it, the OPC, who's
No,
been
PCA.
in the PCA.
PCA. Yeah.
Someone in the PCA is facing disciplinary proceedings because apparently he did, with heinousness of forethought and malice, did engage in the malicious, undignified act of retweeting Aimee Byrd. This is
Well,
happening. Someone is facing charges for retweeting stuff you said on the internet. I mean, it sounds like they live that sounds like something they would do in communist China. I mean,
it's so laughable, but he's actually facing multiple charges. And just the backstory is this is somebody who spoke out against another case where a woman came forward, multiple women came forward saying they've been sexually harassed by their pastor in the PCA. Then multiple women reneged on what they said because this pastor um, probably was kind of intimidating to them. Two of them still stood their ground, and he ended up filing a civil suit of libel against them for a lot of money. I think it was like close to $1 million or $1 million. And I actually attended the deposition of one of these women. And so it was a civil lawsuit of this pastor against this woman. And it was horrifying to watch. It was horrifying. She was grilled for over 6 hours in the deposition with such inappropriateness. So I tweeted something about that. And this pastor is somebody who supported her and spoke out against this pastor doing this. He's been exonerated of, in the church for anything, including, pressing charges in the civil court against his congregants. And so, yeah, now it's like this kangaroo court type thing, right? Like in the church where they're throwing all these charges at this pastor. And one of the charges is that he retweeted Aimee Byrd, but he also retweeted Dr. Valerie Hobbs, who was also at the deposition. And so he's got multiple charges about that as well. And, for retweeting Valerie Hobbs. So like, retweeting these women. And literally when we came to the deposition, there was a break because the lawyer was not happy that, and this pastor was not happy that we were there, and they tried to make it so that we couldn't even be there. We couldn't speak anyway. We were just sitting there watching, observing, witnessing. So, I mean, the oddness of it all, these women being such a threat. I mean, this guy was also, another charge is like a tweet of Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. Like, and like the weirdest part for me is, here I am. I'm somebody who was completely harassed online by pastors and elders in the PCA and the OPC and even like, other denominations. And I had this like wealth of this plethora of receipts, of all the things these people said online that were terrible, and the plotting and, the calling ahead and all the stuff they were doing, and the misogynistic comments, the racist comments they were making about other people. And, I was told, oh, well, there isn't really a way to charge for all this, like there isn't really a way that we can do this, like, and you need to like parse these little things, and so like, the littlest thing.
Geneva comments, look, we don't have any jurisdiction over that. We can't charge people. But retweeting Aimee Byrd.
Yeah, and so then here we are, and the PCA is a pretty significant conservative evangelical denomination, and you're just thinking, really, guys? Like, and what? I don't know. Like, I don't even. I think you commented on it. Like, I can't even think of a joke for this.
I can't. It is the story.
Mike Bird cannot think of a joke for this.
I know. I mean, there's just some level of masculine malevolence that you've got to put a lot of work in to justify it.
Like, how do you even show up for a collegial trial like this? Like,
retweeted Aimee Byrd with, I mean,
it's like the Little Rascals, right? Like the She-Man Haters Club. It doesn't make, it's just ridiculous. Like, why even give it the dignity of showing up?
Yeah, I know. It's just so weird. It's so weird. But out of all the things to indict Presbyterians for, I would not have thought that retweeting Aimee Byrd would be one of them.
I'm apparently still dangerous, like.
Yeah. Well,
that's a warning. Do not retweet me.
but actually, I would say this is an important lesson, and it's important for everyone who is speaking in this space. This is why the men are afraid, because defiance is contagious. I think that's why they're afraid, because defiance is contagious. And when one woman gets the courage to stand up, then another one will, and another one will, and another one will. And if you get all these women standing up for themselves, then they become a crowd. And, and then other things. And do you know what in this world, do you know what one of the worst possible things a woman can do, Amy?
Well, I mean, I got a list.
Women
vote. Yeah.
Women vote. Standing up to themselves lead to women voting with their own minds, not as their husband directs.
Voting.
And this has been another controversy. Should women have the vote? So
I mean, it's embarrassing, Mike. It's embarrassing. I've got, plenty of unbelieving friends. I've got friends who are deconstructing right now. I've got friends who are like holding on to Jesus, but the church is just not making any sense to them anymore. And this is what they see on social media. Like, literally people, and Nancy Pearcey, she's been around for a pretty long time. She's written these kind of scholarly books, some against evolution and worldview, and worldview books, things like this, and pretty popular with the homeschooling crowd. And she was just recently interviewed on a podcast, pretty much saying that the women's suffrage movement was a net loss.
Yeah, I just again, it's hard for me to fathom why a woman would say women voting is a bad thing because women are part of the electorate, the constituency. They're a big part of the citizens. They're involved in government. They're involved in education. There's doctors, lawyers. I mean, women are. I find women are ubiquitous. You find them like practically everywhere,
They have minds,
except
but
possibly a.
the argument is more that we've moved from this kind of household, communal, family oriented model to this individualistic model. So that's where like it does have like some context to it. Like she just didn't pull it out of nowhere. Like I don't think women should vote. Um, but we and Beth Allison Barr and Sheila Grigore did an interview about this with the Ex Evangelicals podcast, I believe, and or the New Evangelicals, and there was a good conversation there and critiquing it all. But this household movement isn't just like this wholesome, oh, nuclear family or whatever. It's basically protecting white male property owners. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's that's who gets the vote. So it's just astonishing to me though to be online and the Christian, Twitterverse or whatever you want to call it, and Christian social media conversations. People are actually arguing about whether women should vote.
That is weird. It's like, did you run out of things to argue about and you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel? Or are you
Well,
going down to the bottom of the list of other things that would be injurious to women? And I just,
yeah. I mean, you think it hasn't been that long ago in my lifetime, really. Women couldn't in the United States couldn't open up a credit card.
yeah, that's right.
Women couldn't start bank accounts for themselves. They didn't have, rights over their own children. So,
I remember there was a time when I was a kid, like this is like the late 70s, where women, like in a pub or a bar, women were not allowed to go up to the main bar to get themselves a drink. They needed a male to go get the drink for them.
huh.
And I remember there was a number of women went up to a bar and literally handcuffed themselves to the bar, and that was their protest.
Yeah,
That
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
neat.
I don't know
Oh,
whether the
wow.
law was actually enforced, but technically women were not allowed to go up and approach the bar on themselves.
Huh. Yeah, it's just that's so interesting because I mean, to me, that also has to, this word lady uh makes me cringe sometimes because there's this behavior attached to that word when you use it.
Yeah,
And that I think is one of those instances where, oh, a lady doesn't go to the bar and order a drink.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Her husband or male consort would do that
Yeah.
for her. Men do the dirty work of going up to the bar that's all wet, covered in peanuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird. But there's also been more controversy around the trap on like Christianity and gender issues with some biographies of Elisabeth Elliot, who many
Yeah. Yeah.
regard as kind of the she was married to the famous missionary Jim Elliot, who was martyred in, I believe, in Central America, and
Mm-hmm.
she's also considered the sort of the architect of the purity movement. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but her story is a lot more complex than that, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
actually kind of like a little bit sad. So
Yeah.
I believe she had three marriages. One was to Jim. I don't know what did
Mm-hmm.
the husband die? The second one die,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
and then the third guy, it turns out, was a bit of a monster or something.
Right. Yeah. Abusive and controlling and yeah, he controlled her life.
So, I mean, did she end up being a victim of her own ideology? Is that how it was?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty complex. I think Crossway published one of these biographies that came out, and I think it did show that, okay, she's not the evil monster that a lot of people who've been harmed by the purity movement want to paint her out as, that she's the product of some pretty crappy stuff that's happened to her too, you know.
Hmm.
But then she also did, like, I don't know if she was the architect, but in a lot of ways, like, she is this voice. She's like the symbol of white patriarchal evangelicalism.
Yeah.
And they needed that, you know, they needed a woman who's revered to be that voice for other women, you know, to kind of get in line. And so Liz Charlotte Grant wrote this article recently about it and the complexities of it. Um, and so I retweeted it and I was literally shamed by like Colin Smothers, who's like the executive director of the Council for Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. You know, so this is like a major conservative evangelical parachurch organization. And he literally, when I say I was shamed, he literally uses the word shame.
Like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Shame. Yeah. Like, and I'm like, and I don't know. It's like the theme here, like what we're talking about with what we're seeing on social media. I think that encapsulates a lot of it is that he actually spoke out loud what I think is being used in a lot of ways in these conversations, and that is just like shaming people. You know, shame on you for retweeting Aimee Byrd. I'm gonna press charges against you. You know, shame women going to the bar to order a drink. That's shameful. Like, you know, like women voting, like all of it. It's just very interesting how we use the dynamics of shame
To control women.
to control women. And so, and I don't know that it's the women really who have the problem of shame, you know, because shamed people shame people. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
you're putting your own shame on someone else because you can't handle it. But I just wonder too, like, what really concerns me, and, you know, maybe we could talk about this in another conversation in more depth, but what really concerns me, Mike, is that this is what people see, like, for Christianity right now, like these ridiculous topic, like there's such distractions to what we need to be talking about, you know, there's such distractions to our witness to Christ and to his kingdom. There, I don't know where the love is, I don't know where the beauty is, I don't know where the poetry is, which that's important to me because this is just junk, it's ugly, and it's actually the opposite of love. It's shaming people.
Yeah.
What are we
I,
doing? Like, what is our witness?
yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's for a figure like Elisabeth Elliot, it's a good to have what you might call a warts and all look at her life. You know,
Yeah,
the
like the
good things she
complexity of it
did,
all.
the bad things that she was kind of responsible. I mean, the bad things that happened to her and the like. So I think there's nothing wrong with that. But people like their hagiography. They like it just this
Yes.
wonderful woman who shows
Let's put her up here.
how great and benevolent male hegemony, male authority is, and and you're saying that she was a victim of man, or maybe what she stood for wasn't great. Yeah, the male industrial complex will come down on that pretty hard. That pretty hard, which is why many women, such as yourself and others, carry a lot of scars. But in their scars, Aimee, we know there is hope, which makes me think that could be a great title for a book, Aimee. Hope in our scars. Has that been trademarked yet?
Yeah. I actually have a book out called The Hope in Our Scars. So it comes out in May. So
Okay.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah. And I really am talking, and it's a lot more personal of a book for me. I'm starting to make a pivot in my writing and where I'm going with things. And so there's memoir mixed in with it and a little bit more contemplative um,
My
angle to
my
it.
favorite part is when you invent a new word.
Which new word?
I can't remember it now. Did your daughter invent a word?
Oh, smarticle. Smarticle.
Smarticle.
Yeah,
That's the one.
that's her way of cutting you down without, you know, really cutting you down. But yeah, so The Hope in Our Scars is really about rising from disillusionment. And I think what we're talking about right now, there's just so much disillusionment in the church. And I know what I went through caused major disillusionment. Like, what do I really believe? Like, what am I in right here? What kind of belonging is this? What do I really need? You know, how does God treat the people he loves? All these major questions, and what really matters in the end of all this. So, yeah, I'm excited about this book because I just feel like I want to have redemptive conversations, but I want to have real conversations. So that means like we do, like our scars bear testimony. And I don't think Jesus wants us to cover over our scars at all. As a matter of fact, the resurrected Christ still had his scars. And that's like what he showed, that's it's me. Here's my scars. And they bear testimony. And I think that they're really like kind of the horizons where beauty can emerge, and Christ meets us in our wounds. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, it sounds like a good book for anyone who's maybe been a bit traumatized by their life in church and just being hounded and harassed in social media or anywhere, and just
Yeah,
for people observing about what's happening around the church scene and the gender wars, and how there is a body count, and a lot of people are still carrying
mm,
the weight of that, the pain in their body because of what they've been through. So yeah, I think
yeah,
Hope in Our Scars is an aptly chosen title.
yeah. And how do we change the conversations? Like as a leader, like if you care about this stuff, like what is it that can get the conversation started in a different direction? To truly be able to see these people, to truly be able to be a place of care and a place that shows Christ.
Yeah. Well, Amy, we look forward to that book coming out in May. And as
Thanks.
always, it's great to talk to you. And hopefully you have a great time in Aruba.
Oh, I will. Thank you, Mike.
Until next time, Amy.
Yep.
And thanks to everyone for watching the show.